Hello, I'm Mark Baer. You're watching the YourTown television program. I'm with street photographer David Clarkson.
Hello.
Welcome.
Thank you very much. I
So
appreciate it.
I, about 3 weeks ago, 2.5, 3 weeks ago, went to a meeting of the image makers. I was invited to see the image makers, not being one of them, and got the delightful opportunity to watch you guys exhibit your work, and it's blown away by the talent here on the Monterey Peninsula and the level of photography. And what happens at these meetings is artists come up one at a time and show 5 or 6 pieces,
Right.
and then discuss and then move on. And yours was you were one of the exhibitors that night.
Yes.
I'd never met you, never seen your work before, and among fantastic work, everything that I saw was high quality, high competency, fabulous photography. And I use the camera in my work, and I'm always looking to steal as an artist. So it's some of the things that were technically different I had not the use for, but your work really stood out because it was street photography. It had poetry to it that I found kind of crossed over art forms. There was a and in a middle photograph. These are street scenes set in San Francisco, and in the middle photograph, as the way they were exhibited, we were standing with a young woman with sunglasses. You were catching your reflection in her sunglasses, and behind the City Lights bookstore. So you captured a tableau, somewhat gritty, but in my mind, rather poetically romantic vision of the cityscape, and it kind of knocked me out. I said, "Well, I got to talk to this guy and see what he's thinking."
Good. Thanks.
And so let's first of all just tell me a little about yourself.
Well, I was born and raised in the Midwest, and went off and spent some time in the service, and then came back, went through the college thing, had a career, and I've always had a camera around since about 1965. And so photography has always been somehow a part of my everyday life. And when I retired about 5 years ago, I made photography all day, every day.
Yeah. So how is the intensity helping? Being full time, being fully dedicated, and 5 years isn't a long time. What does it take, and where are you going, and are you pleased with your progress?
Well, I'm not sure any artist is completely pleased with their progress.
Can you see progress? Let's put it that way.
I think I have progressed, and the amount of time I now spend it's a gift that I can use to do my work, which I thoroughly enjoy. So yeah, it's changed. It's more intense, as you said, but the love of the camera is still the same.
So you started early on. You were in Vietnam. You did doing more of a photojournalist idea.
Yeah, it was largely with friends and stuff like that. I wasn't a photojournalist for any organizations. It was just friends.
Yeah, but trying to what we talked about before camera. Let's get to this: the difference between photojournalism and street photography, and because I think sometimes people don't know the difference between those two things.
Right, right. Photojournalism and documentary work are required by what they are and what the viewers expect them to be. They have to tell the truth, and they use captions so the viewer knows exactly what's going on in the photograph. On the other hand, street photography requires no captions and doesn't necessarily tell the truth. It may be the truth as the artist sees it and their intention, but they may take a different perspective. They may do some post-processing that changes things, and so we're not bound by the truth, and we don't expect you to believe what's in that photograph.
So let's, just for some definitions, what exactly would you say street photography is?
When you find out, call me.
Yeah.
In general, it's photographing people doing everyday things on the streets of any place, really. But the largest concentration would be in some large metropolitan area, like San Francisco, Los Angeles, New York. But you can do it anywhere.
And you're not posing people. They're not aware of you necessarily.
Most of the time, that's true.
Yes.
Sometimes they are, and if I like the photograph, I make the photograph. If I don't, I just pass by. But it entirely depends upon the situation. But most of mine are candid.
Do you ask permission?
No.
No.
Now, on the candids, I don't.
Yes.
But I don't. Sometimes the pose things, I'll work with them and talk to them and ask them. But most, again, is not.
Do you come in with a theme when you go to the city, you go to the day, you have your camera? Are you looking for a particular, or are you looking at what the day brings, improvising? How much is a plan? How much is an improvisation? Kind of how does it work together for you?
Well, the ratios between plan and improv depend upon the day and the intent. This morning when I walked over here, there was the morning sun, and so I was intent on some shadows and some mixture of light in it. So that was clearly intentional. I'll leave for San Francisco tomorrow, and I'll start on the street, and I may have some intentions, but it's largely going to be intuition and what's going on around me.
And so let me ask you this: do you even know what you're doing until you've got enough of a pattern to see? And are you seeing patterns that you didn't understand where you were going?
Again, it's yes and no. There are sometimes patterns that are intentional. I see them. There's something's going on, or maybe the light might create a pattern for me of sequence. But no, I don't really have a significant sequence that I work on all the time. I've got several things that I work on.
And you have kind of signature things that you like. You had mentioned that you like looking at reflections in sunglasses, for instance.
Yeah, the one that you just talked about near City Lights, yeah, in North Beach. I've been working on pictures like that with those glasses since the day I took it, and I couldn't get it right, and I got hers right. So that was a gift.
Yeah, that was really a great photo. Let's talk about. I'm always astounded why it is that certain photographers stand out among millions of photographers. So I know Robert Frank was one of your heroes here, or early,
right.
And Robert Franks, Gordon Parks.
Right.
I love Diane Arbus. These people who you see their work and you go, that's a Frank, that's an Arbus. That's what is it that gives that DNA into their work? How do they brand and like that?
Well, I'm not quite sure how to answer your question, but let me put it this way. You can tell a Robert Frank because of the power of Robert Frank and Gordon Parks and Diane Arbus. Those folks, you look at one of their pictures and you're moved by it. Either in Frank's instance, you're moved by the sequence of photographs and the stories that he tells. Gordon Parks was also a storyteller with his photographs, and they're both very, very powerful. Diane Arbus sort of had an overarching story, but it's all in the photograph. It's all in the power. And those three are three of the most powerful photographers in the history of photography.
Yeah, so unique, and it's very not that they were. It's not that they were photographing something startling. It's what they found juxtaposed in the image, how they found the framing of the image, some kind of strange expression that only they were able to kind of recognize as something. So kind of the understanding of the human heart, so to speak.
Yeah, I suppose. I think the one who had the most heart in it of those three was probably Gordon Parks.
Yes.
The one that had the most anger in those three was Robert Frank. And you know, I don't know how to describe this in any other way except the power of those photographs. If you sit down one evening with a cup of coffee or a glass of wine and just go through and think about each photograph, you can't help but be moved with those folks.
And one of the great things about the intensity now that you're putting into the work is you get to see the master's work in a different light. And so is the work of others revealing itself more to you through your own work? And what's that dance like for you?
Yeah, it's a very difficult dance because they know what they're doing and I'm still trying to learn. And you're always humbled by them.
Yeah.
And so you're right. There isn't a day I go by that I don't think, okay, how's the Robert Frank may have done, but in the end, it's your own photograph. I can't be Robert Frank.
No, you can only be David Clarkson.
That's correct.
Yes.
And mine are not his, and his are not mine.
Right.
And so it'll always be different.
So how, you're reaching this third act of your life. How's it reaching back to your first acts? You went to Vietnam. You have an advanced degree in philosophy.
Mm-hmm.
You were in business for a very long time, and now you're able to kind of loop back and kind of reflect on who that person is now, putting all the parts of your life together. Is this revealing a lot about yourself that you didn't know through the act of the camera?
No, I think it's quite the opposite. I think I use the camera because of what I already felt and experienced before. I was raised in a small Midwestern town. My family were blacksmiths and farmers and clerks and barkeeps, and so that's who I am. And to me, a beautiful landscape is a beautiful landscape, but I didn't know that world. I knew the world of the everyday.
Of American work.
At work, all of the dysfunction of families, all of that, and so that was my life. And so coming to the camera, I wanted to shoot things that were germane to me, and landscapes or still lives or portraiture really wasn't. So I think I influenced the camera rather than the camera influencing me.
So would you be, given what you're saying, would you? I know that the city gives the street photographer anonymity.
Right. The street does.
Yeah. Would you be just as comfortable? I guess a small town wouldn't give you that same anonymity to do this. So that's kind of that's where the city is just people writ large. Then.
All right. That's right. I think if you go into a small community, like the community in which I was raised, you'll find that people are much more guarded and it's open. You may only have one or two people on a street. Well, if you turn a camera on one of them.
Yeah.
But if you have a dense crowd somewhere in New York, San Francisco.
And somebody with the camera is not unusual there.
Yeah, no, it's not.
Yeah.
And so it's just every day.
Except they're not shooting on your phone. That's the only difference is you've got a real camera still.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. So it's, I find for me, the density of the crowd is important.
Yeah. I'm always kind of fascinated with the strange, voyeuristic, invasive thing that street photography is. You're with a camera and you're in somebody else's life. It's a strange impulse. Art is a strange impulse, and you've got to turn that strange impulse and make it into something beautiful. And
it is.
Yeah, it is. So, kind of longer term now, are you have a bigger project in mind? How's it how's it laying out, and where's it? Where are you seeing it going?
Yeah, I do. I've been working on a video show, and not video, but slides made. I guess that's what you call them, but photographs. And I'd like to turn that into a book. And the format of the book, not the photographs themselves, but the format of the book will be built around Robert Frank's famous The Americans.
Okay.
And so that's still ongoing. I don't have all of the photographs I need to tell my story, but when I get done, the template for it comes from Frank.
Mm-hmm. And just, I guess, what Robert Frank does to me is there's a deep looking. He's really looking hard when he's looking at stuff. And how does the deep looking inform you when you are you exhausted after one of these trips? Are you, it's more than just coming up and showing, taking pictures, and you really have to open your eyes. You have to look. You have to search. It's like almost being a hunter in a weird way.
It is. It's exactly being a hunter.
Yeah.
And trying to find that next shot. And and you only get one chance, because that shot in all likelihood just went past you, and you don't get another chance, or the gesture changed, or they turned and looked right at the lens, or something went amiss. So yeah, it's very difficult to hunt and find, and in this, if you want to continue with the language, capture that image. So yeah. And it can be stressful in a different way, walking on the street all day long. So. And then
you're getting better, and you're learning.
Right.
You're learning as you do this.
Right. Correct.
So, anyway, we're already out of time.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So I'm with David Clarkson. You're watching the YourTown television program. We have many of his images that you'll be seeing through this, and we'll be right back. Thank you very much.